I know some of you from my days coordinating the funding network back many years ago, back in 2002. You might know me also as the producer of the film The Age of Stupid. But tonight I'm here to raise £25,000, maybe even more if you're feeling generous. And the reason that we need this money is because the global campaigning community is calling out for 1010 to come and play a crucial part in solving the climate crisis. We know what we need to do. I'm going to tell you just now what we're going to do. We need the money, and we're really hoping that you can provide that. Now, climate change, you may not be hearing about it as much in the press, but sadly it's not going away. It's just getting worse. So I thought it was worth just revisiting a few key facts. The Kofi Annan study last year found that 300,000 people a year are already dying from the impacts of climate change. The Lancet predicted it to be the biggest global health threat of the 21st century, and they'll have over 150 million environmental refugees. So climate change is a terrible, bleak problem. You probably all know that. But how are we going to solve it? The ultimate solution that we all need is the right deal globally. We need to get emissions cut, the right deal globally. And what's the barrier to getting that deal? Why could they not agree in Copenhagen? Now, the two main barriers are the lack of tangible emissions cuts on the nation-state level and a lack of popular support. And until rich countries can actually demonstrate real progress in reducing their emissions, we're going to continue to have finger-pointing, blaming, and diplomatic gridlock. And until politicians see a massive and diverse group of people who care about this issue, they're not going to make the deal we need. At the moment, they're actually more worried about losing votes than they are about the impact of climate change. We see this gridlock on the individual level, on the organisational level. Everyone makes the same calculation. Why should I cut my carbon emissions when my next door neighbour's going on holiday every second weekend? Why should a school cut their electricity use when they can't see how this is part of a global solution? How are we going to break this deadlock on all these levels? This is where 1010 comes in. 1010 is a really simple idea. We all cut our carbon emissions by 10% in a year, starting right now in 2010. So 1010 works to break that gridlock on the individual, the national, and the global level. And we do this first and foremost by motivating individuals, businesses, organisations, even governments to cut their own carbon. And then we bring all of those actions under one umbrella. Why 10%? It's achievable, it's meaningful, it's in line with the science. I only have time to go through very few brief highlights of how 1010 UK is breaking the gridlock by working with all sectors of society. 40% of local councils in almost half the country, 1,600 schools, 120 hospitals, 1,400 organisations, all cutting their carbon by 10% this year. 2,500 businesses, including lots of high street brands, that we've persuaded to up the level of ambition to a 10% cut in a year. London Underground, 10 of their biggest stations, they're cutting by 10%. Really easy measures. They're just turning off the escalators, turning off the elevators when nobody's on them. We have 70,000 individuals in the UK also cutting their carbon. Hopefully some of you here are signed up. But the biggest success, well, Tottenham Hotspurs was a huge success for 1010. Sorry, Fred. Arsenal fans.
Right.
They're cutting their carbon. And, you know, for a climate change campaign to have a premiership football club involved is really a first. But the biggest success so far is the UK government. They've committed to cut their carbon by 10% in a year. That's the equivalent of taking 50,000 cars off the road. But it's all going great, and while the UK government signing up is brilliant and all these people doing it, it's fantastic, that's not going to solve the global deal either. We need to replicate what the UK has done in other countries. Other world leaders need to see these emissions cuts and this broad base of support. So 1010 Global was set up really in response to demand from loads of other groups and organisations battering down the door electronically and wanting to start their own 1010 campaigns. We use an open source model. We share the tools, strategy, resource materials, everything that's made the UK campaign so good with other partners, and they run their own 1010 campaigns. So 1010 Global is working to break this gridlock and get world leaders to work together. Imagine a UN negotiations where world leaders come competing with each other to up the level of ambition. They've got emissions cuts in their back pocket, they've got a big popular support, they know they can make the right deal that we all need. So that's the vision, 1010 Global. Now on to the money. Core costs for running 1010 Global are about £100,000 a year. That's the core cost for keeping it going. So tonight we're hoping to raise a quarter of that. And more specifically, that's £15,000 to support the country hubs. And what we do is we replicate what good campaigns have done, the UK campaign specifically, and we leverage that in other countries. So it's a really efficient, effective use of your money. For example, the UK government signed up, they're cutting their 10%. And this is totally confidential, but Putin's office, it looks like, seriously, they're going to announce a 10-10 commitment in the next couple of weeks in the press. In Egypt, we heard on the way here, their government is looking to announce in July a 10-10 commitment. So this success is being leveraged around the world. We're also raising money to make some online tools. So much good stuff is happening under the 10-10 banner. We cannot keep up, and we need to spread these positive stories. We need to inspire other people. Finally, it's great that people are cutting carbon, great that we share the positive stories amongst our own networks, but we need to get it into the mainstream press to show politicians that there is this huge and diverse group. 10-10 is fantastic bang for your buck. We're so efficient, we're leveraging what the UK campaign has done, but also tonight we've had a match funder say that he will match any donations you make, and so any money you pledge to 10-10 Global will be doubled.
No,
I just wanted to mention very briefly the £10,010 club. If any of you wanted to give £10,010, we have a club. There are various benefits which we can outline later. So just to very briefly take us back to where we started. What does this family's lifestyle in the UK have to do with the spread of malaria in Africa, or the plight of an environmental refugee? And the answer when 10-10 is involved is a surprising amount. By cutting our own carbon, we can not only make a difference directly, we can also play our part in persuading politicians to get the right deal, to get that ultimate solution. And even if world leaders do fail at Mexico at the end of this year, or next year in South Africa, the great thing with 10-10 is that millions of individuals and thousands of businesses and organisations have already started cutting their carbon, and they're on a path to a low carbon future. So Duncan is here from the UK campaign. He's also deeply involved in the global campaign, and he will answer any questions while we will together.
We need 10 questions.